My husband is on a luxury vacation with his girlfriend while our daughter fights for her life in the hospital. He texted, "In meetings all day, reception spotty," but the resort's geotag betrayed him. Now I'm sitting beside our little girl's hospital bed, planning how his perfect life will crumble. The steady beep of the heart monitor punctuates the sterile silence of the pediatric intensive care unit. The fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows across the room, where my daughter Rosie lies unconscious, her small body overwhelmed by tubes and wires. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Her chestnut hair, so like mine, fans across the pillow, a stark contrast to the clinical white of the hospital sheets. She looks impossibly tiny in the oversized hospital bed. I've been here for 72 hours straight. 72 hours of doctors with furrowed brows. 72 hours of nurses offering sympathetic smiles. 72 hours of watching my daughter's chest rise and fall with each assisted breath as she struggles against the rare autoimmune disorder that attacked without warning, sending her immune system into overdrive and her organs into distress. 72 hours without Todd. My phone vibrates in my pocket. For a moment, hope flutters in my chest. Maybe it's him. Maybe he's finally on his way. I pull out my phone, the screen illuminating my exhausted face. In meetings all day, reception spotty. How's she doing? Love you both. The message is casual, almost flippant, as if our daughter isn't fighting for her life, as if he's just checking in about a routine doctor's appointment. My fingers hover over the keyboard, ready to respond with the latest update from Dr. Winters, that Rosie's kidney function is declining, that they're considering more aggressive treatment options, that I'm terrified and I need him here. But something stops me. A small icon beneath his message catches my eye. A location tag. Not from the Seattle financial district where his company headquarters stands. Not from anywhere remotely resembling a business center. The tag reads, "The Royal Palms Resort and Spa, Maui, Hawaii." I stare at those words until they blur before my eyes. My hands begin to tremble, causing the phone to shake slightly in my grasp. A cold numbness spreads through my chest, followed by a wave of nausea that rises from the pit of my stomach. Meetings. He said he was in meetings, important ones that couldn't be rescheduled, even when our 10-year-old daughter collapsed at school 3 days ago, her temperature soaring and her small body convulsing from what we would later learn was hemophagocytic lymphohistiocytosis, an aggressive immune disorder where the body attacks itself. "I'll fly home as soon as I can get away," he'd promised on the phone as I rode in the ambulance, holding Rosie's fevered hand. These investors are crucial. The whole company depends on this deal. I had believed him, just like I'd believed him the countless times before when his absences piled up like unpaid debts. The missed recitals, the forgotten anniversaries, the empty chair at family dinners. With my thumb, I click on the location tag, and my screen fills with images of pristine beaches, swaying palm trees, and luxurious oceanfront suites. The Royal Palms boasts 5-star dining, couples massages, and romantic sunset cruises. Not exactly the setting for high-stakes business meetings. A memory surfaces. Todd clearing his browser history when I entered our home office last month. His suitcase containing new swimming trunks when he was supposedly heading to Chicago in February. The perfume I detected on his collar that wasn't mine, a scent that was floral and expensive. Pieces I had refused to assemble now snapped together with brutal clarity. "Mrs. Reynolds?" A nurse appears beside me, her voice gentle. "Would you like me to bring you something to eat? You've been here all night." I look up, forcing myself to focus on her kind face, rather than the devastating revelations still glowing on my phone screen. "No, thank you," I manage, my voice steadier than I expected. "I'm fine." She nods, her eyes moving briefly to Rosie's pale face. "She's a fighter, your little girl. Dr. Winters is very hopeful about the new treatment protocol." I nod, offering a weak smile as the nurse adjusts one of Rosie's IV bags before quietly leaving the room. When the door closes, I return my attention to the phone, scrolling through the Royal Palms social media page with mechanical precision. And then I see it, a photo posted just 12 hours ago, a sunset cocktail event on the resort's west deck. The image shows blurred figures raising glasses against a backdrop of orange and pink sky. But in the corner, partially cropped but unmistakable, is Todd. His arm is around a woman with copper hair cascading down her back. Her face is turned toward him, capturing a moment of intimate laughter. The phone slips from my fingers onto Rosie's bed. My daughter doesn't stir. The machines continue their rhythmic beeping, unaffected by the fact that my world has just imploded. For 3 days, I've been living on vending machine coffee and adrenaline, watching our daughter fight for her life while Todd, my husband of 15 years, Rosie's father, sips tropical cocktails with another woman. I stare at Rosie's face, at the smattering of freckles across her nose that match mine, at the stubborn set of her jaw that reminds me of Todd. She is the perfect blend of us, a physical manifestation of what I thought our love had created. Now that creation lies shattered, just like the illusion of our marriage. The numbness begins to recede, replaced by something hotter, something that burns through my veins with increasing intensity. My hands clench into fists, nails digging into my palms until I feel the sting of pain, a welcome sensation that anchors me to this moment. I pick up my phone again, taking a screenshot of the resort's post, capturing the evidence of Todd's betrayal. Then I open our bank app, the joint account we've maintained since our wedding day. I scroll through recent transactions, and there they are, charges from the Royal Palms, dinner for 2 at the Ocean View restaurant, a couple's sunset sail, a cabana rental. Over $5,000 spent on a romantic getaway while our daughter lies unconscious and I sleep in a hospital chair. The realization of this betrayal, this absolute abandonment of everything I thought we stood for, doesn't break me. Instead, it crystallizes something within me, hardening my resolve into something unbreakable. I look at my beautiful daughter, her chest rising and falling with each precious breath, and I make her a silent promise. Todd thinks he's safe in his paradise with his girlfriend, building his fantasy while our real life crumbles. He thinks he can compartmentalize us, his family in one box, his affair in another, his career in a third, all neatly separated and controlled. But he's wrong. I take one final look at the resort photo before closing the app. The tears that threatened earlier have evaporated in the heat of my growing fury. I run my fingers gently across Rosie's forehead, brushing back a strand of hair. "It's going to be okay, sweetheart," I whisper, and for the first time in 3 days, I truly believe it. Not because the doctors are optimistic, though they are. Not because the treatment might work, though it might, but because I now have clarity. And with clarity comes power. Todd doesn't know it yet, but his carefully constructed life is about to fall apart, and I will be the one to dismantle it, piece by lying piece, until nothing remains of the man I thought I married. Outside the window, the first light of dawn breaks across the Seattle skyline. A new day. The beginning of the end for Todd, and the beginning of something else for me. The hospital becomes a different place in the morning. Shift changes bring new faces. The hallways bustle with activity, and for a moment, the isolation of the night recedes. I watch as a new nurse, Callie according to her badge, checks Rosie's vitals with practiced efficiency. Her fever's down 2 degrees, Callie says, offering me a smile. That's promising. I nod, grateful for this small victory. In the world of critical care, even the smallest improvements feel monumental. I've learned to celebrate each one, to store them like treasures against the harder moments. Dr. Winters wants to run another set of tests this morning, Callie continues, adjusting Rosie's IV. The new medication seems to be helping with the inflammation. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. When will she wake up? I ask, the same question I've been asking for 3 days. Callie's expression softens. The sedation is still necessary while her body fights the inflammation, but her numbers are improving. That's what we want to see. After she leaves, I find myself staring at the various cards and stuffed animals that have accumulated on the windowsill. Rosie's 5th grade class sent a giant card signed with colorful messages of encouragement. My mother dropped off Rosie's favorite stuffed rabbit, worn threadbare from years of love. My colleagues from the architectural firm where I work sent flowers and offers to cover my projects. Everyone has rallied around us, everyone except the one person who should be here above all others. I reach for my bag and pull out the leather-bound planner I've carried for years. Inside, behind the calendar pages and to-do lists, is a pocket containing photographs. I slide out a family photo taken last summer at our cabin on Lake Chelan. Rosie sits between Todd and me on the dock, her gap-toothed smile radiant as the sunset behind us. Todd's arm is around my shoulders, his other hand resting protectively on Rosie's knee. We look happy. We look whole. Was it all a performance? A carefully constructed facade hiding the fractures beneath? I study Todd's face in the photograph, searching for signs I might have missed. A distance in his eyes, a tension in his smile. Anything that would have warned me of his capacity for such betrayal. My phone rings, startling me from my thoughts. It's Julianne, my sister, calling for her morning update. "How's our girl doing?" she asks, her voice warm across the miles that separate us. Julianne lives in Portland, a 3-hour drive away, and has been threatening to drop everything and come since Rosie was admitted. Her fever's down, I tell her, glad to share the good news. The new treatment might be working. "That's fantastic," Julianne says, relief evident in her voice. "And how are you holding up? Have you slept at all?" I hesitate, the weight of what I've discovered sitting heavy on my chest. Julianne has never particularly cared for Todd, though she's been polite for my sake. She thought he worked too much, prioritized his career over family too often. But even she couldn't have imagined this level of betrayal. "Cammy?" she prompts when I don't answer. "What's wrong?" "Todd isn't in Seattle," I say finally, my voice barely above a whisper. "He's in Hawaii, at a resort." There's a beat of silence before Julianne responds, her voice cautious. "A business trip?" "No." The word comes out flat. "He's with a woman. I saw a picture." "That son of a bitch," Julianne hisses, her restraint instantly evaporating. "I'm coming up. Today. Right now." "No," I say firmly, surprising myself with my resolve. "I need you to stay there. There are some things I need to figure out, and I need to do it on my own." "Cammy, you shouldn't be alone right now. Rosie needs you at your best, and I'm not..." "Alone," I interrupt, glancing at my daughter's peaceful face. "I have Rosie, and I need to be clear-headed about what happens next." After more protest, Julianne reluctantly agrees to wait, but extracts a promise that I'll call her immediately if anything changes with Rosie, or if I change my mind about wanting company. After we hang up, I return to staring at the family photo, but now it feels like looking at strangers. The woman in the picture, carefree, trusting, her head tilted to rest against her husband's shoulder, seems naive to me now. Foolish even. I flip through my planner to the current month, scanning. The careful notes I've made. Rosie's school events, project deadlines, dinner plans with friends. The architecture of our lives, meticulously recorded in my neat handwriting. And there, in the current week, a business trip I dutifully noted for Todd. Seattle Investors Meeting. Important. The exclamation point feels like mockery. Now. I think back to the day he told me about it, just 2 weeks ago. We were in the kitchen. I was preparing dinner while Rosie worked on homework at the counter. Todd had come in, loosening his tie, dropping his briefcase by the door. The picture of a hard-working husband returning home. "Johnson wants me to head the Seattle pitch," he'd announced, accepting the glass of wine I offered. "It's a big opportunity, could mean a promotion." "That's wonderful," I'd replied, genuinely happy for him. His career at the investment firm had been on an upward trajectory for years, each success paving the way for a more comfortable life for us. "When is it?" "End of the month. I'll be gone for about a week." Rosie had looked up from her math homework. "But Dad, that's when my science fair is." I'd watched as Todd crossed to her, ruffling her hair affectionately. "I know, kiddo, and I'm really sorry. Take lots of pictures for me, okay? And when I get back, you can tell me all about your project." Rosie had pouted but accepted his explanation, just as she always did, just as I always did. Now, sitting in the hospital room with the evidence of his deception illuminated on my phone, I wonder how many of his business trips had actually been rendezvous with other women. How long had this particular affair been going on? Was she the first, or merely the latest? The questions pile up, each one more painful than the last. But beneath the pain, something else is growing. A cold, clear determination that feels almost foreign to me. I've always been the peacemaker, the one who accommodates, who understands, who forgives, but there will be no forgiveness for this. I close the planner and return it to my bag. Then I pull out my laptop, power it on, and open a new document. The top, I type a single word: evidence. It's time to find out exactly what my husband has been hiding. The hospital cafeteria is nearly empty at this hour, the lunch rush long over. I sit at a corner table, my untouched sandwich pushed aside to make room for my laptop. The coffee beside me has gone cold, but I barely notice as I methodically work my way through our financial records. Our checking account tells a story, one very different from the narrative Todd has been feeding me. I find recurring charges for upscale restaurants in the city during times he claimed to be working late. Hotel charges in cities where he supposedly attended conferences. Expensive gifts from jewelry stores that never made their way to me. With each discovery, my hands grow steadier, my resolve stronger. This isn't just about a single betrayal, a Hawaii vacation while our daughter fights for her life. This is about years of deception, carefully hidden behind the facade of the devoted husband and father. I'm so absorbed in my investigation that I almost miss the notification that pops up on my phone. A text from Dr. Winters asking me to return to Rosie's room. My heart lurches as I hastily pack my things, fear momentarily displacing the anger that's been fueling me. When I reach the pediatric ICU, I find Dr. Winters standing beside Rosie's bed, studying her chart. His expression gives nothing away. "What's wrong?" I ask, breathless from my sprint through the hospital corridors. "Actually, I have good news," he says, and for the first time in 3 days, a genuine smile crosses his face. The new immunosuppressant therapy is working. Her inflammatory markers are down significantly, and her organ function is stabilizing. Relief floods through me with such force that I have to grip the railing of Rosie's bed to stay upright. "Does that mean she'll recover?" Dr. Winters nods cautiously. "We still have a long road ahead, but yes, I believe she's turned a corner. If she continues to respond this well, we can start weaning her off sedation tomorrow." "She'll wake up?" My voice cracks on the question. "That's the plan," he confirms. "I wanted to tell you in person. You've been incredibly strong through this, Mrs. Reynolds." After Dr. Winters leaves, I sink into the chair beside Rosie's bed, overwhelmed by conflicting emotions. The relief of knowing my daughter will likely recover battles with the rage that's been building since I discovered Todd's betrayal. In the wake of the doctor's good news, I should be reaching for my phone, eager to share this development with my husband. Instead, I find myself opening our mobile banking app again, a peculiar calm settling over me as I continue my investigation. Notification pops up, A new transaction has just been processed. A charge from the Royal Palms Resort for a private beachfront dinner for two, complete with champagne service. Over $600 for a single meal. I close my eyes, remembering the peanut butter and jelly sandwich I hastily consumed in the hospital cafeteria yesterday. The vending machine coffee that sustained me for 3 days. The indignity of having to ask one of the nurses if I could use the staff shower because I couldn't bear to leave Rosie long enough to go home. Meanwhile, Todd is dining on the beach, champagne in hand, probably watching the sunset with his mystery woman. My phone rings, startling me. Todd's name flashes on the screen. For a moment, I consider ignoring it, but a strange curiosity overtakes me. How will he sound? What lies will he tell today? Hello? I answer, keeping my voice neutral. Hey, babe. His voice is casual, relaxed. I can hear the sound of waves in the background before it suddenly cuts off, as if he's moved somewhere quieter, realizing his mistake. How's our girl doing? Better, I say, watching Rosie's chest rise and fall. The doctor says she's responding to the treatment. That's fantastic news. His enthusiasm sounds genuine, which only fuels my anger. How dare he pretend to care from a beach 3,000 miles away? I told you she'd pull through. She's a fighter, just like her mom. I stay silent, letting the pause grow uncomfortable. Listen, he continues, filling the silence. I'm still tied up with these investors. The negotiations are dragging on longer than expected, but I'm trying to wrap things up as quickly as possible. Take your time, I say, surprised by how steady my voice remains. We're managing here. Are you sure? You sound off. I'm tired, I reply, which isn't a lie. It's been a long few days. I know, and I'm sorry I can't be there. You know how important this deal is for the company, for our future. Our future. The words echo in my head, suddenly hollow. Actually, I say, making a split-second decision, there's something I need to tell you about Rosie's condition. What is it? Concern edges his voice now. Is something wrong? No, the opposite. Dr. Winters thinks she might wake up tomorrow. They're going to start reducing her sedation in the morning. Tomorrow? There's a pause, and I can almost see him calculating, trying to figure out how to respond. I don't know if I can get away that quickly. I understand, I say, and I do. Far more than he realizes. The investors need you. I'll try my best, he promises, but we both know it's empty. Give Rosie a kiss for me, okay? Tell her Daddy loves her. Daddy loves her. The words burn in my ears. I will, I lie. Goodbye, Todd. I end the call before he can say anything else, before I lose the composure I've been clinging to. For a long moment, I sit motionless, processing what just happened. Across the room, Rosie's monitors continue their steady rhythm, unaffected by the conversation that has just shattered the last of my illusions. Turning back to my laptop, I open a new browser tab and navigate to social media. If Todd's girlfriend is posting about their romantic getaway, I want to know exactly who she is. 20 minutes of searching rewards me with a discovery. A woman named Grace has checked in at the Royal Palms, tagging her location in a series of photos that carefully avoid showing her companion's face. But in one image, I can see a man's hand on her waist, his distinctive watch visible, the Rolex I gave Todd for our 10th anniversary. I click on her profile, and my stomach drops. Grace Coleman, the new marketing director at Todd's firm. Hired just 6 months ago. In her photos, she's stunning, tall, elegant, with copper hair that falls in perfect waves around her shoulders. She can't be more than 30. I save several of the photos, adding them to my growing file of evidence. Then, on an impulse, I send a message to our family lawyer, Aaron Mitchell. Need to meet as soon as possible. It's urgent. Camilla, his response, comes quickly. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., my office. Everything okay? I don't reply. Nothing is okay, but soon things will be very different. I look at Rosie, peaceful in her medically induced sleep, unaware of how dramatically our lives are about to change. It's just you and me now, sweetheart, I whisper, stroking her hand. But we're going to be okay, I promise. Morning arrives with gentle persistence, sunlight filtering through the half-closed blinds of Rosie's hospital room. I've barely slept, alternating between watching my daughter's face for any sign of change and pursuing my investigation into Todd's betrayal. The documents and screenshots I've collected tell a damning story, one that makes me question not just the past few months, but our entire 15-year marriage. A nurse I haven't met before brings me a fresh cup of coffee. Thought you could use this, she says kindly. Dr. Winters will be by in about 30 minutes to begin reducing the sedation. I thank her, wrapping my hands around the warm cup. Despite my exhaustion, a flutter of anticipation rises in my chest. Rosie might wake up today. She might open her eyes, speak, squeeze my hand. After 3 days of watching her lie motionless, the prospect of seeing her awake fills me with desperate hope. But I can't shake the bitter knowledge that her father won't be here to see it. I check my phone. It's almost 8. In an hour, I'm supposed to be at Aaron Mitchell's office. I've known Aaron for years. He handled our wills, our property purchases, all the legal aspects of our supposedly stable family life. The thought of telling him what's happened makes my stomach clench. But I need his advice. I need to know what my options are. Dr. Winters arrives precisely on time, his team of residents trailing behind him like ducklings. He explains the process of reducing Rosie's sedation. It will be gradual, careful, to prevent any shock to her system. The inflammatory markers continue to drop, he says, reviewing her latest labs. Her kidney and liver function are approaching normal range. These are all excellent signs, Mrs. Reynolds. How long until she's fully awake? I ask. It's difficult to predict exactly, he replies. We'll reduce the medication incrementally and monitor her responses. It could be hours, or it might take until tomorrow. But I'm very optimistic about her recovery. After he leaves, I sit by Rosie's bed, holding her small hand in mine. Her fingers feel warmer today, her skin less pallid. I stroke the inside of her wrist, feeling the steady pulse beneath my fingertips. I have to go out for a little while, sweetheart, I whisper. But Ginger is going to sit with you. Ginger, my best friend since college, had immediately volunteered to help when Rosie was hospitalized. She should be arriving any minute. I'll be back before you know it, I promise. As if summoned by my thoughts, there's a soft knock at the door, and Ginger enters. Her round face is pinched with concern, but she manages a smile when she sees Rosie. She looks better, she says, giving me a quick hug. The treatment's working, I confirm. They're starting to wake her up today. That's wonderful news. Ginger sets her bag down and takes off her coat. Does Todd know? Is he on his way back? The question makes my throat tighten. I haven't told anyone except Julianne about what I've discovered, but Ginger has been my confidant for 20 years. If anyone will understand, it's her. Todd's not coming back, I say quietly. At least, not anytime soon. Ginger's eyebrows draw together in confusion. What do you mean? Rosie's getting better. Surely he wants to be here for that. I take a deep breath and pull out my phone, showing her the photos I've collected. Todd and Grace at the resort, the location tags, the bank statements. Oh my God, Ginger whispers, her eyes widening as she scrolls through the evidence. Cammy, I'm so sorry. That absolute bastard. I'm meeting with Aaron Mitchell in an hour, I tell her. I need to know where I stand legally. Ginger nods, her initial shock transforming into something harder. Good. Nail the son of a bitch to the wall. She looks at Rosie, her expression softening. Don't worry about anything here. I won't leave her side. Take all the time you need. I gather my things, leaning down to kiss Rosie's forehead before I go. I'll be back soon, baby, I whisper. Keep getting stronger. The drive to Aaron's office feels surreal, the familiar streets of our Seattle suburbs suddenly foreign. This is the same route I've driven countless times, past the coffee shop where Todd and I used to meet for lunch, the park where we taught Rosie to ride a bike, the school where she'll return once she's recovered, assuming we still live here. Aaron's office is in a converted Victorian house downtown, its interior modernized while maintaining the original charm. His receptionist shows me in immediately, her sympathetic smile suggesting Aaron has briefed her on the urgency of my visit. Camilla? Aaron rises from behind his desk as I enter, concern evident in his expression. How's Rosie doing? Better, I say, taking a seat in one of the leather chairs facing him. They're starting to reduce her sedation today. The doctors are hopeful. That's wonderful news. He sits back down, studying my face. But something tells me that's not why you're here. No, I agree. Opening my bag and removing a folder containing printouts of everything I've discovered. I need to know my options regarding divorce. If Aaron is surprised, he doesn't show it. Instead, he takes the folder I slide across the desk, opening it and beginning to review the contents methodically. His expression darkens as he examines each piece of evidence. May I ask how you discovered all this? He says finally, looking up at me. Todd texted me from Hawaii, I explain. He forgot to disable his location tag. He thinks I believe he's in Seattle at a business meeting. Aaron nods, continuing to flip through the documents. And these financial records? These are definitely concerning. Those are just what I could access online, I tell him. Our household accounts. But I've always suspected Todd has other accounts I don't know about. He travels internationally for work and his income has always seemed inconsistent with his position. There are bonuses, commissions. At least that's what he tells me. Aaron frowns, making a note on his legal pad. If he's been hiding assets, that's something we'll need to investigate thoroughly. Washington is a community property state, which means all assets acquired during the marriage should be divided equally. I don't care about the money, I say, surprised to find it's true. I care about Rosie. I want full custody. Given the circumstances, especially his absence during a medical crisis, we have strong grounds, Aaron assures me. But the financial aspect is still important. Child support, alimony, securing Rosie's future, these all depend on an accurate accounting of Todd's assets. He continues to explain the divorce process, the timeline, what I can expect. I listen carefully, asking questions, taking notes. This isn't how I imagined spending the morning of the day my daughter might wake up, but I'm determined to be prepared for whatever comes next. As our meeting concludes, Aaron gives me a thoughtful look. Camilla, I have to ask, does Todd know you're aware of his situation? No. I shake my head. He has no idea. Good. Aaron nods. Let's keep it that way for now. The element of surprise can be useful in negotiations. As I stand to leave, I realize I feel lighter somehow, as if taking this concrete step has lifted some of the weight I've been carrying. Thank you, Aaron, I say, extending my hand. He shakes it firmly. I'm sorry you're going through this, especially with Rosie's health situation, but you're doing the right thing. We'll make sure you and Rosie are protected. Heading back to my car. I check my phone. No messages from Ginger, which means Rosie's condition remains stable. No messages from Todd either, though I didn't expect any. He's probably still asleep in his luxury suite, arms wrapped around Grace, blissfully unaware that his world is about to implode. I start the engine, but don't immediately drive away. Instead, I sit for a moment, staring at the folder Aaron has returned to me, now filled with additional documents to review and sign. This folder represents the end of my marriage, the dismantling of what I thought was my life. But it also represents a beginning, a new chapter for Rosie and me. One where we won't be betrayed, one where we won't be abandoned, one where we will rebuild on a foundation of truth instead of lies. I put the car in drive and head back to the hospital, back to my daughter, back to the future we'll forge together. The hospital corridor seems endless as I make my way back to Rosie's room. Each step brings a memory, unbidden and sharp, of the life I thought I had. The life that Todd and I built, or, rather, the life I believed we were building together. 10 years ago, we purchased our house in the Seattle suburbs, a craftsman with good bones but in need of love. My architectural background made the renovation a labor of passion. I could still remember Todd carrying me across the threshold the day we got the keys, both of us laughing as he pretended to stumble under my weight. "Home," he had whispered, in my ear. Our home. We had spent weekends stripping wallpaper, refinishing hardwood floors, arguing over paint colors. When I became pregnant with Rosie, Todd converted the smallest bedroom into a nursery, painting clouds on the ceiling himself. I would find him in there sometimes, staring up at his handiwork, a look of wonder on his face. "I can't believe we're going to be parents," he'd said, pulling me close, his hand resting on my swollen belly. "I promise I'll be the best father I can be." I pause in the hallway, steadying myself against the wall as the memory washes over me. Had he meant it then? Or had it all been a performance, rehearsed lines in the play of our marriage? The day Rosie was born, Todd had cried. Actually, cried. I had never seen him so emotional, so raw. He held her with such tenderness, counted her tiny fingers and toes, marveled at the perfection of her miniature features. "She looks just like you," he had said, his voice filled with awe. "She's beautiful." For those first few years, he had been present, engaged. He coached her toddler soccer team, built her a treehouse in the backyard, read her bedtime stories in silly voices that made her giggle uncontrollably. When had that changed? When had he started pulling away, creating distance between himself and the family he once seemed to cherish? I think back to 3 years ago, when Todd's company expanded internationally. The business trips grew more frequent, stretching from days to weeks. The late-night phone calls, the constant emails. I had supported him, managed the household alone, assured Rosie that Daddy would be home soon. I had been proud of his success, never questioning the cost. There had been signs, I realize now. The way he grew vague when discussing his trips. The unexplained charges on credit card statements that he'd dismiss as client entertainment. The gradual decline in affection between us. The way he became distracted during family dinners, his attention constantly pulled back to his phone. Last Christmas, Rosie had performed in her school's holiday concert. She had a solo, just a few lines of Silent Night, but she had practiced for weeks, determined to get it perfect. The night of the performance, Todd's seat remained empty. He called during intermission, apologetic, stuck in traffic, promised he'd make it up to her. I remember Rosie's face when I told her, the brave smile that didn't reach her eyes. "It's okay, Mom. Dad's really busy. I understand." But she shouldn't have had to understand. She was 9 years old. Her father should have been there. I reach Rosie's room and pause at the door, taking a deep breath to compose myself before entering. Inside, Ginger sits beside the bed, reading aloud from one of Rosie's favorite books. She looks up as I enter, setting the book aside. "How did it go?" she asks quietly. "As well as can be expected," I reply, moving to Rosie's side. "Aaron is going to file the paperwork as soon as I give him the go-ahead. He thinks we have a strong case for full custody." Ginger nods, her expression grim but supportive. "Good. You're doing the right thing, Cammy." "Any change?" I ask, studying Rosie's face for signs of awareness. Dr. Winters came by again about 20 minutes ago. He reduced the sedation a bit more and said her responses are exactly what they'd hoped to see. Her eyelids have been fluttering occasionally. My heart leaps at this news. I take Rosie's hand, squeezing it gently. Rosie? Sweetheart, Mom's here. For a moment, there's nothing. Then, almost imperceptibly, I feel pressure against my fingers, the slightest squeeze in return. Tears spring to my eyes. She squeezed my hand, I whisper, looking up at Ginger. She can hear me. Ginger smiles, blinking back tears of her own. Of course she can. She's been waiting for you. I lean closer to Rosie, stroking her hair back from her forehead. I'm right here, baby. You're getting better, and soon you'll be awake. I love you. So much. Another faint squeeze, this one slightly stronger. I laugh through my tears, overcome with relief and joy. After days of uncertainty and fear, this simple response feels like a miracle. I should go, Ginger says, gathering her things. Give you two some time together. Call me if you need anything, day or night. After she leaves, I settle into the chair beside Rosie's bed, still holding her hand. My phone buzzes, a text from Todd. How's everything going? Any updates on Rosie? The casual tone of his message, as if he's inquiring about the weather rather than our critically ill daughter, makes my blood boil anew. I consider ignoring him but decide against it. For now, I need to maintain the illusion that nothing has changed. Doctor reduced sedation. She's responding. Squeezed my hand. His reply comes quickly. That's fantastic news. Tell her I love her. Should be able to wrap things up here in the next day or two. A day or two. He can't even be bothered to leave immediately now that Rosie is waking up. I don't respond, setting my phone aside. As I sit with Rosie, more memories surface. Her 5th birthday party, where Todd spent most of the time on his phone in the kitchen. The parent-teacher conferences he consistently missed. The times he promised to attend her gymnastics meets but canceled at the last minute. I had made excuses for him, to Rosie, to our friends, to myself. He was building his career, securing our future. He was doing it all for us. What a fool I had been. And yet, there had been moments of genuine connection too. Lazy Sunday mornings making pancakes together. Family movie nights with Rosie sandwiched between us on the couch. Vacations where Todd would leave his phone in the hotel safe and be fully present with us. Had those moments been real? Or merely intermissions in his ongoing deception? A movement draws my attention back to Rosie. Her eyelids flutter again, more noticeably this time. I lean forward, hope surging through me. Rosie? Can you hear me, sweetheart? Her eyes open just a sliver, unfocused at first, then gradually settling on my face. Recognition dawns, and the corner of her mouth twitches in the smallest attempt at a smile. Mom, she whispers, her voice raspy from disuse and the breathing tube that had been removed yesterday. Yes, baby, I'm here, I tell her, tears streaming down my face. I'm right here. Thirsty, she murmurs. I reach for the cup of ice chips the nurse had left, gently placing one between her lips. She accepts it gratefully, the cool moisture soothing her parched throat. Where's Dad? She asks after a moment, her gaze moving, past me to the empty chair on the other side of the bed. The question pierces my heart. How do I explain Todd's absence? What can I possibly say that won't add to her pain, her confusion? He's away for work right now, I say finally, hating the lie but knowing this isn't the time for the truth. But he's so happy you're getting better. He can't wait to see you. Rosie nods slightly, accepting this explanation just as she's accepted all of Todd's absences over the years. The realization breaks my heart anew. My daughter deserves better. She deserves a father who would drop everything to be at her side in a crisis. a father who would move heaven and earth to be there when she needed him most. And I deserve better too. The woman who renovated a house, built a career, raised a child, often single-handedly while her husband pursued his ambitions, deserves more than lies and betrayal. As Rosie drifts back to sleep, her hand still clasped in mine, I make a silent vow. This cycle ends now. No more excuses. No more looking the other way. No more protecting Todd from the consequences of his choices. From this moment forward, every decision I make will be for Rosie and myself, our future, our happiness, our healing. Todd Reynolds is about to learn exactly what he's thrown away. The next morning brings a flurry of activity. Dr. Winters and his team arrive early, pleased with Rosie's progress. She's more alert today, able to stay awake for longer periods, though still weak and easily tired. The medical staff conduct tests, adjust medications, and gradually remove monitoring equipment that's no longer necessary. If she continues improving at this rate, we may be able to move her to a regular room tomorrow, Dr. Winters tells me. Her immune system is still compromised, but the crisis phase appears to be behind us. Relief washes over me. After days of uncertainty, of watching my daughter hover between life and death, the possibility of her recovery feels miraculous. I thank Dr. Winters, my voice thick with emotion. When the medical team leaves, Rosie looks at me with tired but lucid eyes. How long have I been here? She asks. 4 days, I tell her, stroking her hair. You've been very sick, but you're getting better now. She nods slowly, processing this information. Has Dad come at all? The question catches me off guard. I'd hoped to avoid this conversation until she was stronger, until I had figured out exactly what to tell her about Todd's betrayal. No, sweetie, I say gently. He's been away for work. In Seattle? She frowns slightly. That's not very far. I hesitate, torn between protecting her and being honest. No, not in Seattle. Something in my tone must alert her because she studies my face with surprising intensity for a child who was unconscious just yesterday. Is Dad okay? He's fine, I assure her. He's not where he said he would be. Rosie considers this, her young mind working to understand the subtext. Is he with that lady from his office? The one with the red hair? Shocked, I stare at her. What lady, Rosie? She shifts uncomfortably, as if regretting having spoken. I saw her picture on Dad's phone once. He said she was a new person at work. But then I saw him delete the text really fast when you came in the room. My heart sinks. Even Rosie had seen the signs I'd missed, or rather, the signs I'd chosen to ignore. How long ago was this? I ask, trying to keep my voice steady. Before Christmas, she says. When we were decorating the tree. 4 months. At least 4 months that my 10-year-old daughter had been carrying this knowledge, this doubt about her father. The thought makes me sick. Rosie, I say carefully, I need you to know that whatever is happening with Dad has nothing to do with you. He loves you very much. She looks down at her hands, fidgeting with the hospital bracelet around her wrist. If he loves me, why isn't he here? The simple question, asked with such raw vulnerability, breaks something open inside me. All the anger, all the hurt, all the betrayal I've been processing crystallizes into a moment of perfect clarity. Todd isn't here because he chose not to be. Not because of work. Not because of circumstances beyond his control. He made a deliberate choice to prioritize his desires over his daughter's needs, over the very real possibility that she might not survive. And in doing so, he's broken a trust that can never be repaired. I don't know, sweetheart, I say, because I can't bring myself to tell her the full truth. Not yet. But I promise you, I will always be here, no matter what. She nods, seemingly satisfied with this answer for now, though I know there will be harder conversations ahead. As Rosie drifts off to sleep again, I step out into the hallway to gather my thoughts. My phone buzzes with a text from Aaron. Financial investigation underway. Found something concerning. Call when you can. I find a quiet corner in the visitor's lounge and call him immediately. Camilla, Aaron answers on the first ring. Thanks for getting back to me so quickly. How's Rosie? Better, I say. Much better. What did you find? He clears his throat. My financial investigator discovered several offshore accounts in Todd's name. Substantial sums, we're talking millions, have been moving through these accounts over the past 2 years. Millions? I repeat, stunned. Todd's position as an investment director at his firm paid well, but not well enough to explain that kind of money. Where is it coming from? That's what concerns me, Aaron says gravely. Some of the transfers appear to involve shell companies linked to clients of Todd's firm. Without a complete audit, I can't say for certain, but there are red flags suggesting potential securities fraud or embezzlement. The words hit me like physical blows. Securities fraud, embezzlement, criminal offenses that could result in federal charges, prison time. Does his company know? I ask. Not yet, as far as we can tell. But it's only a matter of time before someone notices. These things rarely stay hidden forever. I lean against the wall, trying to absorb this new information. Todd isn't just a cheater, he may be a criminal. The father of my child, the man I've built a life with for 15 years, could be headed to prison. What does this mean for the divorce? I ask finally. For Rosie and me? Aaron sighs. It complicates things. On one hand, these discoveries strengthen your position for full custody. No judge would grant significant parental rights to someone facing potential federal charges. On the other hand, if these funds are proven to be illegally obtained, they could be subject to seizure and forfeiture. Meaning we could lose everything, I say, the reality sinking in. Not everything, Aaron corrects. Your home, your legitimate savings, your personal assets would be protected, especially since we can demonstrate you had no knowledge of or involvement in any illegal activities. But anything directly tied to these suspicious funds would be at risk. I close my eyes, trying to process the implications. Our comfortable life, the private school Rosie attends, the vacations, the renovations to our home. How much of it was built on stolen money? I need to protect Rosie, I say finally. Whatever it takes. I understand, Aaron replies. For now, my recommendation is to proceed with the divorce filing as planned, but to hold off on confronting Todd until we have a more complete picture of the financial situation. The element of surprise remains our best advantage. After ending the call, I stand motionless in the hospital corridor, watching nurses and doctors move efficiently around me, tending to patients, saving lives. The ordinary activity feels surreal, against the backdrop of my imploding world. Todd isn't just betraying me with another woman while our daughter fights for her life. He's potentially involved in criminal activity that could destroy everything we've built. The depth of his deception is staggering. I think about the life we've lived, the vacations, the home improvements, the extravagant gifts Todd would sometimes bring home just because. Had I been living in a house built on lies? Wearing jewelry? Purchased with stolen money? Had my comfortable existence been funded by other people's losses? The thought makes me nauseous. I've always prided myself on my integrity, on teaching Rosie the importance of honesty and ethical behavior. Now I discover I've been an unwitting participant in a life that may have been funded by fraud. But even as these realizations crash over me, something else emerges through the chaos, a sense of determination stronger than anything I've felt before. I will not allow Todd's choices to define our future. I will not let Rosie become collateral damage in his selfish pursuit of wealth and pleasure. I return to Rosie's room, watching her peaceful sleep. Her color has improved dramatically, the unhealthy pallor replaced by her natural warm tone. Her breathing is steady, unassisted. Her body is healing, and so will mine. So will my life. Whatever storm is coming, divorce, financial upheaval, public scandal, I will weather it. I will rebuild something honest and true from the wreckage of Todd's deception. I will create a life for Rosie and myself that isn't shadowed by lies or built on fraudulent foundations. For the first time since discovering Todd's betrayal, I feel something unexpected. Gratitude. Gratitude that I found out now, before wasting more years on a man who respects neither his marriage vows nor the law. Gratitude that Rosie will have the chance to learn what real integrity looks like, even if it comes through the painful lesson of her father's failures. My phone buzzes again. Todd, sending a photo of a sunset over the ocean with the caption, "Wish you were here. Love you. The audacity is breathtaking." I stare at the screen, a strange calm settling over me. Let him enjoy his paradise while he can. The reckoning is coming, and when it does, he'll wish he had never set foot on that beach. By the next afternoon, Rosie has improved enough to be moved from the ICU to a regular pediatric room. The new space is brighter, with colorful walls and a window that overlooks a small garden. It feels less like a place of crisis and more like a way station on the road to recovery. Rosie is sitting up in bed, sipping apple juice through a straw when I return from speaking with Dr. Winters in the phi hallway. Her movements are still slow, her strength diminished, but the improvement from just 24 hours ago is remarkable. "What did the doctor say?" she asks, her voice stronger than yesterday. "He says you're doing great," I tell her, settling into the chair beside her bed. "If you keep improving like this, we might be able to go home in a few days." She brightens at this news, then her expression grows hesitant. "Will Dad be home when we get there?" The question I've been dreading. I take her hand in mine, choosing my words carefully. "Rosie, there's something I need to tell you. It's going to be hard to hear, but I think you're old enough to understand." She nods, her eyes serious beyond her years. "Dad and we're having some problems in our marriage," I begin, keeping my explanation appropriate for a 10-year-old. "When you're better and home safe, Dad and I will be living separately for a while." Her face falls, but she doesn't look entirely surprised. "Because of the lady with the red hair?" I hesitate, then nod. There's no point denying what she's already figured out. Partly, but also because Dad has made some choices that weren't honest or fair to us. Is that why he's not here? Even though I was really sick? Yes, I say simply, seeing no reason to shield her from this truth. He chose to be somewhere else when you needed him. Tears well in her eyes, but she blinks them back with a determination that makes my heart swell with pride and ache with sorrow simultaneously. "I thought maybe he just didn't know how sick I was," she says quietly. "He knew, sweetheart. I called him as soon as the ambulance came." She processes this, her young face solemn. "So he doesn't care about me anymore?" "No, that's not it," I say quickly, though part of me wonders if it might be true. "I think Dad still loves you very much, but sometimes adults make bad choices, even when they love someone. It doesn't make it hurt any less, but I want you to know that it's not because of anything you did." Rosie is quiet for a long moment, staring down at her juice. "Will I still see him?" "Of course," I assure her, though I have no idea what custody arrangements will look like, especially if Todd ends up facing criminal charges. "Things will be different, but he'll always be your dad." This seems to satisfy her for now. She changes the subject, asking when her best friend Molly can visit, and I'm grateful for the reprieve from difficult explanations. While Rosie naps later that afternoon, I step out into the hallway to make some calls. First to Julianne, updating. her on Rosie's condition and the latest developments with Todd. "I still think you need someone there with you," she insists. "This is too much to handle alone." "I'm not alone," I tell her. "I have Ginger, and Aaron is handling the legal aspects. Honestly, I need to focus on Rosie right now. Having you here would just mean one more person to worry about." She grudgingly accepts this, but extracts a promise that I'll call her daily. Next, I call my boss at the architectural firm where I work as a project manager. He's been incredibly understanding about my absence, assuring me that my projects are being covered and my job is secure for as long as I need. "Family comes first," he says. "We'll be here when you're ready to come back." I'm grateful for the security, especially now that I understand our financial situation may be more precarious than I realized. My final call is to Donnie Richards, a private investigator whom Aaron recommended. Given the potential criminal aspects of Todd's activities, Aaron suggested having someone with specialized skills dig deeper into both the financial irregularities and Todd's personal life. Donnie's voice is gruff but kind when he answers. After Juan explaining my situation, he agrees to meet me at the hospital tomorrow. "Bring whatever financial records you have access to," he advises. "Bank statements, investment accounts, tax returns, anything that might give us a starting point." I spend the next hour on my laptop accessing what accounts I can and downloading statements, our joint checking and savings, my retirement account, the college fund we started for Rosie, credit card statements going back 18 months. I organize everything methodically, creating digital folders and printing key documents at the hospital's business center. What emerges is a pattern more obvious than I had initially realized. Regular transfers from our joint account to unknown destinations, cash withdrawals far larger than our typical expenses would justify. Credit card charges for high-end restaurants and hotels in cities Todd supposedly visited for business. But there are gaps, accounts I know must exist but can't access. Todd's personal credit cards that don't come to our home address. Investment. Portfolios he's mentioned but never shown me. The offshore accounts Aaron's investigator discovered. I feel a strange detachment as I compile this evidence of my husband's systematic deception. It's as if I'm investigating a stranger, not the man I've shared a bed with for 15 years. Perhaps that's the truth of it. Todd has always been a stranger in some fundamental way, a man playing a role rather than being authentically present in our marriage. When I return to Rosie's room, she's awake and watching a movie on the small TV mounted on the wall. She smiles when she sees me, patting the space beside her on the bed. "Come watch with me, Mom." I set aside my worries and climb carefully onto the narrow hospital bed, putting my arm around her thin shoulders. She nestles against me, her warmth and solidity a tangible reminder of what matters most. "Are you sad about Dad?" she asks suddenly, eyes still on the screen. "Yes," I answer honestly. "But I'm also angry, and that's okay too." She considers this, then nods. "I'm angry too. He should be here." "You're right, he should." "We'll be okay though, right? Just you and me?" I hug her closer, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. "Absolutely. We're going to be more than okay." As we watch the movie together, my phone vibrates with a text. "Todd again. Just checking in." "How's our girl?" The casual presumption of his message, as if he has any right to claim Rosie as our girl while he's vacationing with his mistress, ignites a fresh wave of anger. But I keep my response neutral, playing the role of unsuspecting wife for a little longer. Getting better. Moved to regular room today. Doctors are pleased with her progress. His reply comes quickly. "That's fantastic news. Tell her I'm thinking about her constantly. Should be wrapping things up here soon." I set the phone aside without responding, focusing instead on Rosie, on the steady rhythm of her breathing against my side. Whatever resources I need to gather, financial, legal, emotional, I'll find them. Whatever strength this situation requires, I'll summon it. Todd may have spent years constructing his house of lies, but I am methodically gathering the easy tools to dismantle it, brick by brick. And when I'm finished, there will be nothing left but the truth, stark and unforgiving. The truth that will free Rosie and me to build something new, something honest, from the rubble he leaves behind. Donnie Richards arrives at the hospital precisely at 10 the next morning. He's shorter than I expected, with salt and pepper hair and the watchful eyes of someone who notices everything. He's dressed in a nondescript navy blazer and khakis, professional but forgettable, which I suspect is intentional in his line of work. We meet in the hospital cafeteria while Rosie is having physical therapy. I've arranged a corner table away from other visitors, with my laptop and the file of documents I've prepared. "Mrs. Reynolds," he greets me with a firm handshake. "Aaron briefed me on your situation. I'm sorry you're going through this." "Thank you," I reply, gesturing for him to sit. "And please, call me Camilla." He settles across from me, declining my offer of coffee with a small shake of his head. "I understand your husband is currently in Hawaii while your daughter has been critically ill." "Yes." I open my laptop, turning it to face him. These are photos from the resort's social media accounts. You can see Todd in the background here, and more clearly in this one. Donnie studies the images, his expression revealing nothing. "And the woman?" "Her name is Grace Coleman. She's the marketing director at Todd's firm. Hired about 6 months ago." He nods, making a note on a small pad he's pulled from his pocket. "What else can you tell me about her?" I hesitate, realizing how little I actually know. "Not much. She's younger, early 30s, I'd guess. From what I could find online, she moved here from Chicago. Before that, she worked at a financial services company there." "Any indication how long the affair has been going on?" "Based on credit card charges and hotel bookings I've found, at least 4 months. But my daughter mentioned seeing a photo of her on Todd's phone before Christmas. So possibly longer." Donnie continues taking notes, his questions precise and methodical. He asks about Todd's work patterns, travel schedule, changes in behavior over the past year. I answer as honestly as I can, feeling both relieved to share the burden of knowledge and embarrassed that I hadn't pieced it together sooner. "Now," he says, setting down his pen, "let's talk about the financial concerns." I pull out the folder I've prepared, explaining what I've discovered about our accounts, the withdrawals, the transfers, and the gaps in my knowledge. "Aaron mentioned possible securities fraud or embezzlement," I add, keeping my voice low despite our isolated table. "His investigator found offshore accounts with millions moving through them." Donnie's eyebrows rise slightly, the first genuine reaction I've seen from him. "That changes things," he says, his tone serious. "If your husband is involved in financial crimes, this goes beyond a divorce case. We're talking potential federal investigation, SEC involvement. What does that mean for me? For Rosie?" He considers this, tapping his pen against his notepad. "It means we need to be very careful, very thorough. If there's criminal activity, you need to be completely insulated from it. We need to establish that you had no knowledge or involvement." "I didn't," I affirm. "I manage our household finances, but Todd has always handled the investments, the retirement accounts, anything related to his work." "Good," Donnie nods. "That will help. But we need more. I'll need to dig into these offshore accounts, trace where the money is coming from and where it's going. I'll need to look into this Grace Coleman as well, determine if she's involved or just a bystander." For the next hour, we develop a strategy. Donnie will investigate both the professional and personal aspects of Todd's life. He'll track financial transfers, gather evidence about the affair, and even look into Grace's background to see if there are connections we're missing. "One more thing," I say as we're wrapping up. "I need to know when they're coming back from Hawaii. I don't want Todd showing up at the house without warning." "I'll find out," Donnie assures me, "and I'll put a surveillance team on the resort. We'll know their movements." After Donnie leaves, I return to Rosie's room, finding her back from physical therapy and looking tired but pleased with herself. The therapist says I'm doing really well, she tells me proudly. I walked all the way down the hall and back with just a little help. That's amazing, sweetheart, I say, genuinely thrilled with her progress. You're getting stronger every day. As I sit with her, my phone buzzes with an email notification. It's from Aaron, with the subject line, "Divorce filing, ready for review." My stomach tightens as I open it, scanning the formal legal language that will dismantle my marriage. Petition for dissolution of marriage, division of assets, child custody and support. The clinical terms for the end of 15 years together. Attached is a separate document labeled Financial Discovery Request. A comprehensive list of accounts, properties, investments, and assets that Todd will be legally required to disclose. Once the filing is served, I close the email, unable to focus on the details right now. The reality of what's happening, what I'm setting in motion, suddenly feels overwhelming. Mom? Are you okay? Rosie's voice pulls me back to the present. Yes. Just a work email, I lie, forcing a smile. Nothing important. She studies me with those perceptive eyes that seem to see right through my pretenses. Is it about Dad? Sometimes I forget how intuitive she is, how little escapes her notice. Yes, I admit. But it's nothing for you to worry about. Adult stuff. Nods, accepting this explanation. When I grow up, I'm never getting married, she declares with the absolute certainty only a child can muster. The statement catches me off guard. Why not? Because people just end up hurting each other, she says matter-of-factly. Like Dad hurt you. I move to sit on the edge of her bed, taking her hand in mine. Rosie, what's happening with Dad and me? It's not how all marriages work. Many people have wonderful, loving partnerships that last their whole lives. Like, Grandma and Grandpa, she asks, referring to my parents who celebrated their 45th anniversary last year. Exactly like them, I confirm. What Dad did was his choice, not something that happens in every relationship. I don't want you to grow up afraid of loving someone because of what's happening now. She considers this, her brow furrowing in thought. But how do you know? How do you know the person won't change and start lying? It's a profound question, one that I'm struggling with myself. How did I not know that the man I married contained the capacity for such deception? What signs did I miss? You can never know for sure, I tell her honestly. But you can pay attention to how people treat you and others. You can look for consistency between what they say and what they do. And most importantly, you can trust yourself, your instincts, your values, your worth. I think I'd still rather get a dog, she says, and the unexpected comment makes me laugh, breaking the tension of the moment. A dog is always a good choice, I agree. Later, after Rosie has fallen asleep, I step into the hallway to call Aaron. We discuss the divorce filing in hushed tones, finalizing details and planning next steps. We're almost ready, Aaron says. Once Donnie completes his initial investigation, we'll have a clearer picture of what we're dealing with. But I want to emphasize, Camilla, if there is evidence of financial crimes, you may have decisions to make about whether to report what you've found. What do you mean? I mean that if Todd is embezzling money or committing securities fraud, you could potentially be seen as complicit if you discover it and don't report it. On the other hand, he's the father of your child. These aren't easy waters to navigate. I lean against the wall, suddenly exhausted. I just want what's best for Rosie. That's all that matters to me. I understand, Aaron says gently. Just be prepared. Sometimes these situations don't give us clean, easy options. After we hang up, I stand in the quiet hospital corridor, weighing the impossible choices that may lie ahead. Report the father of my child to authorities, potentially sending him to prison? or look the other way while he potentially harms others through financial crimes. My phone buzzes with a text from Donnie. Found something significant. Need to meet tomorrow. Will be at hospital at 9 a.m. I stare at the message, a sense of foreboding washing over me. Whatever Donnie has discovered, I suspect it will only make my choices more difficult, the path ahead more complicated. But I've come too far to turn back now. The truth, however painful, is preferable to the comfortable lies I've been living with for too long. Donnie arrives precisely at 9 the next morning, carrying a slim leather portfolio and wearing the same neutral expression I observed yesterday. But there's something different in his demeanor, a tension in his shoulders, a tightness around his eyes that suggests whatever he's discovered isn't good news. We meet in an empty family consultation room that one of the sympathetic nurses arranged for us. The space is designed for privacy, soundproofed walls, comfortable chairs, a small table between us, perfect for conversations no one else should hear. "How's your daughter today?" Donnie asks as he settles into his chair. "Better," I tell him. "Dr. Winters says she might be discharged tomorrow if her blood work continues to improve." He nods, offering a brief smile that doesn't reach his eyes. "That's good news." "But you don't have good news," I say, reading his expression. "What did you find?" Donnie opens his portfolio, removing several documents and photographs. "I want to start with the relationship between your husband and Ms. Coleman," he says, laying 3 photos on the table. These were taken about 4 months ago in Chicago. I examine the images, Todd and Grace entering an upscale restaurant, sitting intimately at a corner table, leaving a hotel the next morning. The timestamps indicate an overnight stay during what Todd had told me was a business conference. "This wasn't a casual fling that started recently," Donnie continues. "Based on my investigation, they've been involved for at least 7 months, possibly longer. 7 months. While I was taking care of our home, raising our daughter, supporting his career, Todd had been building a relationship with another woman. The betrayal cuts deeper than I expected, despite everything I already knew. There's more," Donnie says, pulling out additional documents. "Grace Coleman is not who she appears to be." "What do you mean?" "She presented herself to Todd's firm as an experienced marketing executive from Chicago. Her resume listed positions at several prestigious companies, an MBA from Northwestern, impressive achievements. But when I dug deeper, I found discrepancies." Slides a report across the table. "Grace Coleman is actually Gabriela Colmenares. She changed her name legally 3 years ago. She does have marketing experience, but not at the companies she claimed, and she never attended Northwestern." I stare at the document, struggling to process this new information. "Are you saying she lied to get hired at Todd's firm?" "Yes, but it goes deeper than that." Donnie's expression grows more serious. "Gabriela Colmenares worked for a small investment firm in Miami 5 years ago. That firm was investigated by the SEC for a pump and dump scheme that defrauded investors of millions. She was never charged, but she left Miami immediately after the investigation began. Then she appears in Chicago with a new name, new credentials, new identity. And now she's with Todd," I say slowly, pieces beginning to fall into place. "At his firm, where he's potentially involved in financial crimes." Donnie nods, his expression grim. "Which brings me to the more concerning findings. I traced the offshore accounts that Aaron's investigator discovered. They're linked to a network of shell companies, all ultimately connecting back to a holding company in the Cayman Islands. That company appears to be controlled jointly by Todd and Grace. My blood runs cold as the implications become clear. They're working together. It appears so. Based on the financial patterns I've uncovered, they seem to be executing a sophisticated embezzlement scheme. Client funds are being diverted through multiple channels, disguised as legitimate investments, then funneled into these offshore accounts. "How much?" I ask, my voice barely above a whisper. "Conservatively, At least $12 million over the past 18 months. The number is staggering. $12 million stolen from Todd's clients, laundered through a maze of fake companies and hidden accounts. And all while he maintained the facade of the dedicated husband and father at home. "There's one more thing you should see," Donnie says, removing a final document from his portfolio. "This is a transfer authorization for a property purchase in Costa Rica. A beachfront villa worth approximately $2 million. The purchase is being finalized next week with both Todd and Grace listed as owners." I stare at the document, the words swimming before my eyes. They're planning to leave, I realize, to disappear together. That would be my assessment, yes. Costa Rica has no extradition treaty with the United States for financial crimes. Once they're there with their money, they'd be essentially untouchable. The room seems to tilt slightly as the full scope of Todd's betrayal becomes clear. This isn't just an affair, a midlife crisis played out on a Hawaiian beach. This is a calculated, long-term conspiracy. Todd and Grace have been methodically stealing millions, establishing an escape route, preparing to abandon everything, including Rosie. "What do I do with this information?" I ask, looking up at Donnie. "Legally, you have an obligation to report suspected financial crimes," he says carefully. "But there are considerations beyond the legal ones. If Todd is arrested, the scandal will affect you and Rosie. There will be investigations, possibly a trial, media attention. His assets, including those you share, could be frozen or seized. But if I don't report it, and he disappears to Costa Rica with her, then he escapes justice, but you and Rosie might avoid some of the fallout." I take a deep breath, trying to think clearly through the shock. When is he scheduled to return from Hawaii? Tomorrow evening. Their flight lands at 8:45 p.m. Tomorrow. The same day Rosie might be discharged from the hospital. I think of bringing her home to an empty house, or worse, to a confrontation with Todd if he comes there directly from the airport. "I need to speak with Aaron," I say finally. "And I need to protect Rosie from whatever happens next." Donnie nods, gathering his documents. "I'll continue monitoring the situation. If there's any change in their travel plans, I'll let you know immediately." After he leaves, I sit alone in the consultation room, my mind racing with possibilities and plans. The scope of Todd's betrayal is far greater than I had imagined, the stakes impossibly high. Whatever decision I make will irreversibly alter Rosie's life, my life, and Todd's future. I call Aaron, arranging to meet him at his office that afternoon, while Ginger stays with Rosie. Then I contact Dr. Winters, inquiring about the exact timing of Rosie's potential discharge tomorrow. Finally, I call a locksmith, scheduling them to come to the house today to change all the locks. Step by step, I begin to formulate a plan. Not one driven by vengeance, though the temptation is strong, but by protection. For Rosie, for myself, for the innocent investors whose money Todd has stolen. When I return to Rosie's room, she's sitting up in bed, color in her cheeks, looking more like herself than she has in days. "Mom, look what Ginger brought me." She holds up a new sketch pad and colored pencils, proudly displaying a drawing of what appears to be our backyard. "That's beautiful, honey," I say, forcing a smile despite the weight of what I've learned. Ginger notices my expression, raising an eyebrow in silent question. I give a slight shake of my head, indicating we'll talk later. "How about a walk?" I suggest to Rosie. "The nurse said you should try to move around more today." She nods eagerly, already pushing aside her blankets. I help her into the slippers and robe the hospital provided, then support her as she stands, still unsteady but improving rapidly. As we slowly make our way down the hospital corridor, Rosie's, hand gripping mine for balance, I find myself studying her profile. She has Todd's chin, his dimple when she smiles. How will she process the truth about her father when it eventually comes to light? How will she reconcile the dad who built her treehouse with the man who stole millions and planned to abandon her? "What are you thinking about?" she asks, catching me watching her. "Just how proud I am of you," I reply, which isn't a lie. "You're so strong, Rosie, stronger than you know." She smiles, pleased by the compliment. "I get it from you." The simple statement nearly undoes me. She believes in me, trusts me to make the right decisions, to protect her, to guide us through whatever comes next, and I will. Whatever it takes. By the time we return to her room, I've made my decision. Tomorrow, when Todd's plane lands, he won't be returning to our home. He won't be disappearing to Costa Rica with Grace and the stolen millions. He'll be facing consequences, legal, financial, and personal, for every deception, every betrayal, every selfish choice he's made. It won't be easy. The path ahead will be painful for all of us, but it will be honest. And in that honesty, Rosie. And I will eventually find healing. Todd's web of lies is about to unravel, thread by carefully constructed thread. And when it does, he'll discover that the wife he underestimated, the family he was willing to abandon, will be the architects of his downfall. The meeting with Aaron is intense, but productive. I lay out everything Donnie has discovered, the long-term affair, Grace's false identity, the embezzlement scheme, the Costa Rica property. Aaron listens without interruption, taking notes and occasionally asking for clarification. "This is far more serious than we initially thought," he says, when I finish. "We're not just talking about divorce and custody anymore. We're looking at federal crimes, international finance laws, and a conspiracy that could send both of them to prison for a significant time." "I know," I respond, my voice steadier than I expected. "But I can't look the other way. Not just because it's illegal, but because there are real victims. People whose retirement savings, college funds, investments were stolen." Aaron nods, his expression grave. "I respect that decision. It's the right one ethically, though certainly not the easiest path." He taps his pen against his legal pad. "But we need to be strategic about how we proceed. Timing is crucial. We spend the next hour developing a comprehensive plan. Aaron will contact a colleague at the SEC first thing tomorrow morning, providing an overview of what we've discovered and arranging for a formal meeting. Meanwhile, I'll work with Donnie to secure all the evidence in a way that clearly demonstrates I had no knowledge or involvement in Todd's crimes." "What about the locks you had changed today?" Aaron asks. "That's just the beginning," I tell him. "I've also arranged for a security system to be installed this afternoon. And I've scheduled movers to come on Friday to put Todd's personal belongings in storage." "Good," he approves. "Just make sure you document everything. We don't want him claiming you've disposed of his property." "I won't touch his things," I assure him. "But I don't want him in the house with Rosie and me, especially now that I know what he's capable of." As I prepare to leave, Aaron asks a question I've been avoiding. "What will you tell Rosie? About Todd? About the potential legal consequences?" I sigh, the weight of this particular burden heavier than all the others combined. "The truth, but in a way she can understand. She already knows something is wrong, that her father isn't who we thought he was. I'll explain as gently as I can, focusing on the fact that none of this is her fault. And if he attempts to contact her directly, the possibility sends a chill through me. I'll talk to Dr. Winters about restricting hospital visitors to an approved list. And once we're home, she won't be alone. Not until this is resolved. Back at the hospital, I find Rosie napping peacefully, Ginger reading quietly beside her bed. She looks up when I enter, immediately setting aside her book. "That bad?" she asks, reading my expression. I nod, sinking into the chair opposite hers. "Worse than I imagined." In hushed tones, I explain what Donnie discovered, watching Ginger's eyes widen with each new revelation. "My God, Cammy," she whispers when I finish. "Are you sure about this? About Todd being involved in something so criminal?" The evidence is overwhelming, I say. And it explains so much. The unexplained income, the secretive behavior, his increasingly frequent business trips. I was so focused on Rosie, on my work, on keeping our family running that I missed what was happening right in front of me. Ginger reaches across the bed to squeeze my hand. This isn't your fault. Todd made these choices, not you. I squeeze back, grateful for her unwavering support. I know, but Rosie will suffer for his choices, and that's what I can't forgive. What can I do to help? She asks. Can you stay with her tomorrow afternoon? I need to meet with someone from the SEC and I want to be home when the hospital discharges her. Of course, Ginger says without hesitation. Whatever you need, whenever. You need it, I'm here. After she leaves, I spend the evening with Rosie, watching movies on the small hospital TV, playing card games, and listening to her excited plans for returning to school once she's fully recovered. Her resilience amazes me. Just days ago, she was critically ill, and now she's focused on the science project she needs to complete and whether her friends have been keeping up with their secret club. When she finally drifts off to sleep, I open my laptop to check my email. Among the work messages and well wishes from friends is one from Todd, heading back tomorrow. Can't wait to see my girls. Love you both so much. The casual affection, the presumption that he'll simply slide back into our lives as if nothing has happened, makes my blood boil. But I maintain my composure, replying with deliberate vagueness. Rosie may be discharged tomorrow. I'll update you on timing. No mention of looking forward to seeing him. No expression of love. Just the bare minimum of information to maintain the illusion that I remain unaware of his betrayal. His response comes quickly. Great news. I'll come straight to the hospital from the airport if you're still there. If not, see you at home. Flight lands around 9. I close the laptop without replying. By the time his flight lands tomorrow night, the SEC will have been notified of his crimes. The divorce papers will be ready to serve. The locks to our home will have been changed, his access to our joint accounts restricted, and his belongings packed for removal. Todd believes he's returning to his carefully compartmentalized life, dutiful husband and father in Seattle, embezzling businessman planning an escape with his mistress. Instead, he's walking into the consequences of every selfish choice he's made. The next morning brings a flurry of activity. Dr. Winters confirms that Rosie can be discharged later today, pending one final round of blood tests. The results should be back by early afternoon, and if they're as positive as expected, we can leave by 4. I call the security company to confirm that the system has been installed and is functioning properly. Then I check with the movers, adjusting their schedule to Saturday instead of Friday, to ensure I have time to properly document Todd's belongings before they're packed. Aaron calls with an update. His contact at the SEC is extremely interested in the information we've provided and has arranged for an investigator to meet with me at his office at 1 o'clock. Her name is Samantha Reeves, Aaron tells me. She specializes in securities fraud and has worked on several high-profile embezzlement cases. I've sent her the preliminary evidence, and she's already seeing red flags. Will they move quickly on this? I ask, concerned about the timing with Todd's return. They'll move as quickly as the evidence warrants, but federal investigations aren't known for their speed. That said, if they determine there's an imminent risk, like Todd potentially fleeing the country, they can accelerate certain aspects. I think of the Costa Rica property, the millions hidden offshore, the flight that will bring Todd back to Seattle in less than 12 hours. I'll make sure she understands the urgency. Before leaving for the meeting, I sit with Rosie, who's excited about going home today. I've been preparing her gradually for the changes she'll encounter, explaining that Dad won't be staying with us for a while, that some things in our family are changing. But we're still us, I assure her, brushing her hair back from her forehead. You and me, we're a team. She nods, accepting this with the remarkable adaptability of children. Will Dad still come to my science fair next week? The question catches me off guard. I don't know where Todd will be next week, possibly in custody, possibly fighting criminal charges, possibly having fled the country if things go badly. But I can't tell Rosie any of that yet. I'm not sure, sweetheart, I say honestly. Dad has some problems he needs to deal with right now, but I'll be there, front and center, to see your project. She seems satisfied with this, returning to the tablet game she's playing. I watch her for a moment, her small fingers tapping the screen, her forehead creased in concentration. So innocent, so unaware of the storm about to break over our family. Pray I'm doing the right thing, for her, for the people Todd has harmed, for my own integrity. The easier path would be to look the other way, to pretend I never discovered the truth, to protect Rosie from the public scandal that will inevitably follow. But that path would be built on the same foundation of lies that Todd constructed. And I've had enough of lies to last a lifetime. Ginger arrives to stay with Rosie, giving me a fierce hug before I leave. "You've got this," she whispers in my ear. "You're the strongest person I know." I don't feel strong as I drive to Aaron's office. I feel terrified, heartbroken, and overwhelmingly sad for what might have been. But beneath those emotions is a core of determination that grows with each mile. Todd chose this path. He chose deception. Over honesty, greed over integrity, selfish desire over family obligation. Now he will face the choice I'm making. Justice over silence, truth over comfortable lies, and whatever comes next, Rosie and I will face it together. Samantha Reeves from the SEC is nothing like I imagined. I expected someone older, stern, bureaucratic. Instead, she's in her late 30s, with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor that immediately puts me at ease. This is someone who takes financial crimes seriously, someone who will listen. "Mrs. Reynolds," she says, shaking my hand firmly. "I've reviewed the preliminary evidence your attorney provided. I'd like to hear the story directly from you." For the next hour, I walk her through everything. How I discovered Todd's betrayal through the location tag on his text, the financial discrepancies I uncovered, and what Donnie's investigation revealed about the extent of the embezzlement scheme. Samantha takes detailed notes, occasionally stopping me to clarify specific points or asking for additional information. Her questions are precise, focused particularly on establishing my lack of involvement in or knowledge of Todd's activities. "Based on what you've shown me, and what your investigator has uncovered, there's clearly cause for a formal investigation," she says when I finish. "The patterns of fund diversion, the offshore accounts, the shell companies, these are classic markers of securities fraud." "And the Costa Rica property?" I ask. "The fact that they may be planning to flee?" She nods, her expression serious. "That's particularly concerning. Costa Rica has become a popular destination for financial criminals precisely because extradition is difficult." She closes her notebook. "I'll be taking this directly to my superiors. This afternoon, given the circumstances, I believe we can fast-track certain aspects of the investigation." "What happens next?" I ask. "We'll need formal statements from you, your private investigator, and anyone else with direct knowledge of these activities. We'll subpoena financial records, begin tracking the movement of funds, and likely conduct interviews with personnel at your husband's firm." She pauses. "Mrs. Reynolds, I want to be clear. This process can be lengthy and complicated. And once it begins, we follow the evidence wherever it leads." "I understand," I say. "I just want the truth to come out. For Rosie's sake, for the people whose money was stolen, for my own peace of mind." Samantha's expression softens slightly. "For what it's worth, coming forward as you have, especially given the personal circumstances, shows remarkable courage. Many people in your position would look the other way, particularly when children are involved." We conclude our meeting with a plan for me to return tomorrow with Donnie to provide formal statements. As I leave Aaron's office, I feel a strange mixture of dread and relief. The wheels of justice are turning now, a process set in motion that can't be easily stopped. I check my phone to find a text from Ginger. Great news. Blood tests came back perfect. Dr. Winters says Rosie can leave at 3 core. My heart lifts at this positive development. After days of fear and uncertainty, my daughter is coming home. Not to the home she left. That reality is gone forever, but to a new beginning for both of us. I arrive at the hospital just before 3, finding Rosie already dressed in fresh clothes Ginger brought from home, sitting on the edge of her bed, as a nurse reviews discharge instructions. Important to continue the antibiotic course for the full 10 days, the nurse is saying as I enter. And she should have a follow-up appointment with Dr. Winters next week. I've already scheduled it, I tell her, moving to Rosie's side. Tuesday at 10 a.m. Rosie beams up at me, excitement evident in her face. I get to sleep in my own bed tonight. You like? Sure do. I smile back, smoothing her hair. And Ginger's going to stay over for a couple of days like a slumber party. This addition to the plan, Ginger staying with us, was a last-minute decision, motivated both by concern for Rosie's continued recovery and by my unease about being alone in the house when Todd discovers he's been locked out. The discharge process takes another 45 minutes. Final checks from Dr. Winters, prescriptions to fill, paperwork to sign. By the time we wheel Rosie out to the car, hospital policy, though she insists she can walk, it's nearly 4. Can we get pizza for dinner? Rosie asks as I help her into the back seat. Absolutely, I agree, grateful for her appetite after days of hospital food and IV nutrition. Whatever kind you want. The drive home feels surreal, the familiar route now leading to a decidedly unfamiliar future. As we turn onto our street, I study our house with new eyes. The craftsman style Todd and I fell in love with. The garden I've tended for years. The basketball hoop above the garage where Rosie practices with neighborhood friends. It all looks exactly the same, yet everything has changed. Inside, Rosie immediately goes to check on her room, her fish, her belongings, reassuring herself that her world still exists. I follow more slowly, noticing the small signs of the security system installation, the keypad by the front door, the subtle sensors on the windows. Ginger arrives 30 minutes later with pizza and overnight bags. We eat in the living room, a special treat for Rosie, who's still too tired to sit properly at the dining table. The normalcy of the scene, sharing pizza, laughing at Rosie's stories about the hospital food, planning what movie to watch, feels like a brief respite from the storm I know is coming. At 7, Rosie starts to fade, the excitement of coming, home giving way to exhaustion. I help her upstairs, get her settled in bed with her favorite stuffed animals arranged around her, and sit with her until her breathing deepens into sleep. Downstairs, Ginger has poured 2 glasses of wine. She hands one to me as I sink onto the couch. How did it go with the SEC? She asks. Better than I expected, I tell her, taking a grateful sip. They're taking it seriously. I go back tomorrow with Donnie to make formal statements. She nods, studying my face. And how are you really doing with all of this? The simple, direct question breaks through the composed facade I've been maintaining. Suddenly, tears are streaming down my face, my breath coming in shuddering gasps. I don't know, I admit, my voice cracking. I'm terrified, Ginger. Terrified of what happens when Todd gets back tonight. Terrified of what this will do to Rosie. Terrified of the future. She moves to sit beside me, wrapping an arm around my shoulders. That's completely normal. But you're doing the right thing, Cammy. The brave thing. It doesn't feel brave, I whisper. It feels like I'm destroying my daughter's world. No, she says firmly. Todd destroyed it. You're just refusing to keep pretending it's still intact. We sit in silence for a few minutes, the weight of the coming confrontation hanging between us. Finally, I check my watch. 8:30 p.m. Todd's. Flight should be landing soon. Have you heard from him today? Ginger asks. Just a text this morning saying he was boarding his flight and looking forward to seeing his girls. I reply, the bitterness evident in my voice. I didn't respond. What do you think he'll do when he can't get in? I've considered this question extensively. Probably call, then text, then maybe try to get in through the garage or back door. When that doesn't work, he'll either give up and go to a hotel or he'll make a scene. And if he makes a scene, that's why I had the security system installed, I say grimly. If he tries to force his way in, the alarm will go off, and I won't hesitate to call the police. My phone buzzes. A text from Donnie. Flight landed on time. They're currently at baggage claim. Another buzz follows immediately. Surveillance in place. We'll update as they leave airport. The sound of Todd's key scraping uselessly in the lock is followed by a second attempt, more forceful than the first. Then comes the inevitable knock, tentative at first, then louder, more insistent. I move to the door, my heart hammering in my chest. Ginger gives me an encouraging nod from the living room, staying out of sight, but close enough to intervene if needed. Taking a deep breath, I open the door, keeping the security chain engaged. Through the narrow gap, I see Todd, tanned from his Hawaiian vacation, dressed in casual designer clothes, his expression shifting from confusion to relief when he sees me. Cammy? Why is the lock changed? He asks, his tone conversational, as if this is a minor inconvenience rather than the first consequence of his betrayal. You know why, Todd, I reply, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through me. His brow furrows in apparent confusion. What are you talking about? Let me in. It's been a long flight and I want to see Rosie. Rosie is asleep. I say, and you're not coming in. Not tonight. Not ever again. The pretense of confusion gives way to wariness. He studies my face, calculating, assessing how much I might know. Cammy, whatever you think is happening, I'm sure we can talk about it. Just let me in, and we'll sort this out. Like you sorted things out with Grace in Hawaii? I ask, watching, his expression carefully. Or should I call her Gabriella? His face drains of color, the tan suddenly looking artificial against his pallor. What are you— I know everything, Todd, I interrupt, no longer interested in his denials or excuses. The affair, the embezzlement, the offshore accounts, the property in Costa Rica, all of it. He stares at me, speechless for a moment, then attempts to recover. You're not making any sense. I've been at a business conference. I don't know what you're talking about. Stop lying, I say, my voice hardening. I have photographs of you and Grace at the Royal Palms. I have records of the money you've stolen. I have documentation of your plans to flee the country. It's over, Todd. All of it. He steps closer to the door, his expression darkening. Let me in, Camilla. Now. This is my house, too. Not anymore. I hold my ground, even as my pulse races. I've filed for divorce. The papers will be served tomorrow. I've also spoken with the SEC about your financial activities. At the mention of the SEC, real fear flashes in his eyes. You had no right, he hisses, abandoning all pretense. You have no idea what you've done. I know exactly what I've done, I counter. I've protected my daughter from a father who was willing to abandon her. I've protected myself from a husband who betrayed every promise he ever made. And I've done what's legally and morally right by reporting financial crimes that have hurt innocent people. Todd's hand slams against the doorframe, his control slipping. Open this door, Camilla. We need to talk about this privately. No, I say firmly. There's nothing left to discuss. You need to leave now, or I'll call the police. This is insane, he snarls. You can't keep me from my own daughter, my own home. Whatever you think you know. I know that while Rosie was fighting for her life in the hospital, you were on a beach with your girlfriend. I cut in, my voice trembling with rage. I know that you've been stealing from your clients for at least 18 months. I know that. You and Grace were planning to disappear to Costa Rica with millions in stolen money. What part of that did I get wrong, Todd? He doesn't answer, his jaw working as he stares at me through the gap in the door. The silence stretches between us, confirmation more damning than any denial could be. Your things will be moved to storage on Saturday, I continue, when it's clear he has no defense to offer. The address and access information will be sent to you. You can stay at a hotel or with Grace in her downtown apartment. I really don't care. But you're not staying here. This isn't over, he says, his voice low and threatening. You have no idea what you're getting into, Camilla. Neither did you, I reply evenly. Goodbye, Todd. I close the door before he can respond, securing the deadbolt with shaking hands. Through the peephole, I watch as he stands motionless for several long moments, then pulls out his phone and walks back toward the waiting taxi. He's leaving, I tell Ginger, who has moved to stand behind me. Are you okay? She asks, her face tight with concern. I think so, I say, though my legs feel suddenly weak. I sink onto the bench in the entryway, the adrenaline of the confrontation giving way to a bone-deep exhaustion. Ginger sits beside me, wrapping an arm around my shoulders. You were amazing, she says. So strong, so clear. I lean against her, grateful for her steady presence. Did you see his face when I mentioned the SEC? He was terrified. As he should be, Ginger says grimly. What he's done is criminal, not just to those investors but to you and Rosie. My phone buzzes with a text from Donnie. Subject leaving in taxi. Want me to follow? I type a quick response. Yes, please. Need to know where he goes. Almost immediately, another text comes through. This one from Todd. We need to talk. This is a misunderstanding. I can explain everything. Ginger reads the message over my shoulder and snorts. Misunderstanding? He was caught red-handed. I don't respond to Todd's text, setting my phone aside. I should check on Rosie, I say, rising from the bench. Upstairs, I find my daughter still sleeping peacefully, unaware of the confrontation that has just taken place below. I stand in her doorway, watching the gentle rise and fall of her chest, the way her hand curls beneath her cheek, the fan of her dark lashes against her skin. For this child, I would move mountains. For her safety, her future, her sense of what's right, I would face anything, even the pain and scandal that will surely come in the days ahead. Back downstairs, I find Ginger in the kitchen, making tea. Do you think he'll try to come back tonight? She asks, handing me a steaming mug. I don't know, I admit, but that's why we have the security system. And Donnie watching him. We settle at the kitchen table, the house quiet around us. It's strange to think that just a week ago, my life seemed normal, predictable. I was managing projects at work, planning Rosie's summer activities, occasionally wondering why my marriage felt increasingly hollow, but pushing those thoughts aside as ordinary midlife discontent. Now everything has changed. I'm a single mother. My husband is a criminal. Our family as we knew it is gone. What happens tomorrow? Ginger asks quietly. I go back to the SEC with Donnie to give formal statements, I say, wrapping my hands around the warm mug. The divorce. Papers get served to Todd, and I start figuring out how to rebuild our lives. My phone buzzes again with an update from Donnie. Subject checked into Marriott downtown. We'll maintain surveillance until morning. I show Ginger the message, relief washing over me. At least for tonight, Todd is nowhere near us. Whatever comes next, his anger, his attempts to explain or manipulate, his potential legal troubles, can wait for tomorrow. You should try to get some sleep, Ginger suggests. It's been an incredibly long day, and tomorrow won't be any easier. She's right, of course. Between Rosie's discharge from the hospital, the meeting with the SEC, and the confrontation with Todd, I'm running on fumes, and tomorrow will bring its own challenges, More meetings, more decisions, more steps toward this new reality. As I prepare for bed, I pause in front of the mirror in the master bathroom. The woman looking back at me appears different somehow, her eyes harder, her jaw more set, her posture straighter despite the evident exhaustion. She looks like someone who has been broken but has begun the painstaking process of reassembling herself, piece by jagged piece. I barely recognize her, but I think I might like her. This woman who refused to look away, who chose truth over comfortable lies, who put her daughter's future above her husband's betrayal. She isn't who I was a week ago, but perhaps she's who I needed to become. Morning arrives too quickly, sunlight streaming through curtains I forgot to close. For a disorienting moment, I imagine it's just another day, that I'll hear Todd in the shower, that Rosie will bounce in asking for pancakes, that our normal life continues undisturbed. Then reality crashes back. Todd is at a hotel downtown. Rosie is recovering from a life-threatening illness. And I'm preparing to give formal statements that could send my husband to prison. I check my phone, finding a series of texts from Todd ranging from pleading, "Please call me, we need to talk. This is all a misunderstanding," to angry, "You have no right to lock me out of my own house," to threatening, "You'll regret going to the SEC, you have no idea what you're getting into." I show the messages to Ginger over coffee while Rosie still sleeps upstairs. "You should share these with Donnie and the SEC," she advises, frowning at the threatening tone of the later texts. "And maybe consider a restraining order." "Already on my list for today," I tell her. Aaron suggested the same thing, especially now that Rosie's home. A text from Donnie confirms he's still monitoring Todd. Subject still at Marriott. Received visitor at 7:15 a.m., female, confirmed to be Grace Coleman. Both currently in hotel restaurant, so they're already coordinating, planning their next move. I wonder if they realize how thoroughly their scheme has unraveled, how completely their future plans have been derailed. The Costa Rica property, the offshore millions, the clean getaway, all of it now exposed and under investigation. Rosie comes downstairs around 8, moving slowly but insisting on walking unassisted. Her face lights up when she sees the pancakes Ginger is making, a small normalcy in our radically altered world. "Did Dad come home last night?" she asks, settling carefully at the kitchen island. I exchange a glance with Ginger before answering. "No, sweetie. Dad is staying somewhere else for now, like I explained." Rosie nods, accepting this with the resilience of childhood, though I see questions in her eyes that she's not yet ready to ask. For now, the pancakes and maple syrup are enough to distract her. After breakfast, I help her get settled on the living room couch with books, her tablet, and a direct view of the bird feeder outside the window, her favorite spot for recovery. Days when she's been sick. "Ginger's going to stay with you while I go to a meeting," I explain, tucking a blanket around her legs. "I shouldn't be gone more than a couple of hours." "Is your meeting about Dad?" she asks, showing that perceptiveness that still sometimes catches me off guard. I consider deflecting, but decide on honesty instead. "Yes, it is. There are some grown-up problems that need to be sorted out." "Because he wasn't here when I was sick?" "Partly," I say carefully. "But also because of some other choices he's made. I promise we'll talk more about it when you're feeling stronger." She seems satisfied with this for now, turning her attention to the book she's been reading. I kiss the top of her head, inhaling the clean, familiar scent of her hair, drawing strength from her presence. Donnie meets me outside Aaron's office building, his expression grave. "Todd and Grace left the hotel about 20 minutes ago," he informs me as we walk inside together. "They went to his office building downtown. I have someone watching them." "Do you think they know about the SEC investigation?" I ask. "Hard to say," he replies. "But if they're smart, they'll be getting suspicious. Your confrontation with Todd last night would have set off alarm bells. In Aaron's office, we're introduced to another SEC investigator who has joined Samantha Reeves, a stern-looking man named Carlos Martinez, who specializes in tracking international financial transactions. We've been reviewing the evidence overnight, Samantha explains once we're all seated in Aaron's conference room. Based on what we've seen, we've already initiated formal proceedings. Subpoenas are being prepared for your husband's firm, the offshore banks, and several individuals. How long will the investigation take? I ask. Carlos answers, his voice measured and precise. Financial fraud cases of this complexity typically take months, sometimes years, to fully investigate and prosecute. However, he adds, seeing my expression, the evidence of imminent flight risk may accelerate certain aspects. We're particularly concerned about the Costa Rica property and the movements of assets offshore. For the next 2 hours, I provide a detailed formal statement, describing exactly how I discovered Todd's betrayal, what financial records I had access to, and my complete lack of involvement in or knowledge of his criminal activities. Donnie follows with his findings, presenting evidence in a methodical, professional manner that seems to impress even the seasoned SEC investigators. Based on what we've heard today, we'll be moving quickly, Samantha says as the meeting concludes. You should be prepared for significant developments in the coming days. What kind of developments? I ask. She and Carlos exchange glances before she answers. Potentially the freezing of accounts associated with your husband, search warrants for his office and electronic devices, and possibly, depending on what additional evidence emerges, an arrest warrant. The word arrest sends a chill through me, despite everything I know about Todd's actions. The thought of him in handcuffs, facing criminal charges, is simultaneously satisfying and horrifying. What about Rosie? I ask, my voice smaller than I intended. How do I protect her from all this? Aaron, who has been mostly silent during the formal statements, speaks up. I've already drafted an emergency custody motion, which we can file today if you'd like. Given the circumstances, the court will almost certainly grant you temporary full custody while the criminal investigation proceeds. I nod, grateful for his foresight. Yes, please file it. I need to be sure Todd can't take her or make decisions about her care, especially now. As we leave Aaron's office, my phone rings with an unfamiliar number. Warily, I answer to find it's Brian Lincoln, one of the partners at Todd's firm. Camilla, he says, his voice tense. I need to speak with you urgently. About Todd. What about him? I ask cautiously. There are irregularities we've discovered this morning. Financial discrepancies that are extremely concerning. Todd isn't answering his phone, and we thought perhaps... He breaks off, clearly uncomfortable. Is there somewhere we could meet? So it begins. Todd's professional world starting to unravel alongside his personal one. I'm afraid I can't discuss this with you, Brian, I reply formally. I suggest you contact the Securities and Exchange Commission. They're already aware of the situation. A sharp intake of breath on the other end of the line tells me this information is unexpected. The SEC? Already? I see. Thank you for letting me know. After hanging up, I share the conversation with Donnie, who nods grimly. The house of cards is collapsing, he observes. Once one person at the firm starts looking closely at the accounts, others will follow. It won't take long before the full scope becomes apparent. And Todd will know it's happening, I say, the realization making me nervous. He'll be desperate. Which is why we need to maintain surveillance and security, Donnie affirms. I don't want to alarm you, but people in Todd's position sometimes make irrational decisions when they feel cornered. The warning stays with me as I drive home, checking my mirrors more frequently than usual, half expecting to see Todd's car following me. By the time I pull into my driveway, my knuckles are white on the steering wheel, tension coiled tight in my shoulders. Inside, I find Rosie and Ginger playing a board game. the normalcy of the scene a stark contrast to the legal and financial storm brewing elsewhere. Rosie looks up with a smile that falters slightly when she sees my expression. "What's wrong, Mom?" she asks, her perceptiveness once again catching me off guard. I force a smile, setting aside my worries for her sake. "Nothing, sweetheart, just a busy morning. Who's winning?" As I join them on the floor, trying to focus on the game rather than the upheaval surrounding us, I can't help but wonder where Todd is now, what he's doing, how he's responding to the walls closing in around him. And for the first time, I find myself not just angry at his betrayal, but genuinely afraid of what he might do next. The next 48 hours unfold with dizzying speed. Aaron's emergency custody motion is granted by the judge, giving me sole decision-making authority for Rosie while the investigation proceeds. The SEC obtains search warrants for Todd's office, electronic devices, and financial records. Todd's firm places him on immediate administrative leave pending investigation. And through it all, Todd himself seems to vanish. "We lost track of him yesterday afternoon," Donnie tells me during a phone call that sends icy fear through my veins. He and Grace left his office separately. She returned to her apartment, but he never went back to the hotel. His phone appears to be turned off. Could he have fled the country? I ask, stepping out onto the back porch so Rosie won't overhear. "It's possible, but unlikely," Donnie assures me. "We alerted the SEC immediately, and they've placed both Todd and Grace on a watch list with Border Control and the TSA. If either tries to leave the country through normal channels, they'll be stopped." "And abnormal channels?" I press. "We're monitoring private airports and marinas as well," he says. "But I want you to enhance security at the house. I'm sending over an additional alarm system component today, a panic button that will connect directly to police dispatch if needed." The suggestion that such a measure might be necessary sends a chill through me. "Do you really think he would try to come here? To confront me or take Rosie?" "I don't know," Donnie admits. "But in my experience, people who feel cornered sometimes make desperate choices. Better to be prepared." That evening, I sit with Rosie on her bed, reading one of her favorite stories even though she's really getting too old for bedtime stories. The normalcy of the ritual soothes us both, creating a bubble of peace amid the chaos our lives have become. "Mom?" she says as I close the book. "Is Dad in trouble?" I hesitate, weighing how much to tell her. "Yes, honey. He's made some bad choices, and now there are consequences for those choices." She considers this, her small face serious in the soft glow of her bedside lamp. "Like when I took that toy from Emma's house without asking, and I had to return it and apologize?" The innocence of the comparison makes my heart ache. "Something like that," I say gently, but much more serious. Dad broke some important rules that adults are supposed to follow. "Will he go to jail?" she asks, the question so direct that it catches me off guard. "I don't know," I answer honestly. "That's for other people to decide. But whatever happens, it's not your fault. None of this is because of you." She nods, seeming to accept this. "And we'll be okay, right? Just you and me?" "Absolutely," I assure her, brushing back her hair. "We're going to be more than okay." As she drifts off to sleep, I find myself thinking about her question. Will we truly be okay? The foundations of our life have been shattered. Our financial future is uncertain, with accounts frozen and assets potentially subject to seizure. The scandal, when Todd's crimes become public, will affect Rosie at school, affect my standing in the community, affect every aspect of our lives. Yet as I watch my daughter's peaceful sleeping face, I feel a strange certainty growing within me. We will be okay, not because the path ahead will be easy, but because we're facing it together, with truth as our foundation rather than the elaborate deceptions Todd constructed. Downstairs, I find Ginger cleaning up the kitchen from dinner, her presence a steady comfort in these turbulent days. She asleep? She asks as I enter. Finally, I nod, sinking into a chair at the kitchen island. She asked if Todd is going to jail. Ginger pauses in loading the dishwasher. What did you tell her? The truth. That I don't know. I rest my head in my hands. How did we get here, Ginger? How did I not see what was happening? She closes the dishwasher and comes to sit beside me, her expression gentle but firm. You didn't see it because you're not a person who could imagine doing what Todd did. Because you trusted, as you should be able to trust your husband of 15 years. This isn't on you, Cammie. Her words offer a small measure of the absolution. I've been seeking. The first fragile step toward healing the wounds Todd's betrayal has left. 3 days pass with no sign of Todd. The SEC investigation continues, with agents interviewing colleagues at his firm, combing through financial records, and tracking the movement of funds through various accounts. Each day brings new revelations about the extent of his fraud, the sophistication of the scheme, the number of victims affected. I try to shield Rosie from these developments, focusing instead on her recovery. Her strength returns steadily, her appetite improves, and the follow-up appointment with Dr. Winters confirms she's progressing well. The medical crisis, at least, appears to be behind us. Have you thought about what comes next? Julianne asks during one of our daily phone calls. My sister has been a constant source of support, though she's respected my wish to handle things on my own for now. Honestly, I've been too focused on getting through each day, I admit. Between Rosie's recovery, the SEC investigation, and Todd's disappearance, I haven't had much capacity for long-term planning. But you will need a plan, she points out gently. For when the dust settles. She's right, of course. The comfortable life we had, the spacious house in an expensive neighborhood, Rosie's private school, the summer vacations, was at least partially built on fraudulent income. Even if I can keep the house in the divorce, can I afford the mortgage on my architect's salary? What about Rosie's tuition? The future stretches before me, filled with question marks. Yet amid these uncertainties, something unexpected begins to take shape. A sense of purpose I hadn't anticipated. It starts with a call from another parent at Rosie's school, whose voice is hesitant, almost apologetic. I hope you don't mind me reaching out, she says after introducing herself as Miranda, mother of Rosie's classmate Zach. I heard about what happened with your husband. My family went through something similar 3 years ago. She explains that her ex-husband had also committed financial fraud, leaving her to navigate the aftermath with their children. It was the most isolating experience of my life, she confesses. No one knew what to say to me. People treated me like I was either complicit or completely clueless. Neither felt good. Her words resonate deeply, articulating feelings I've struggled to name. That's exactly it, I say, relief washing over me at being understood. I feel like I'm wearing a scarlet letter for something I didn't even do. It gets better, she assures me. And I'd be happy to get coffee sometime. Sometimes it helps just to talk to someone who's been there. After we hang up, I find myself contemplating our conversation. There must be others like us, partners left behind to deal with the wreckage of financial crimes they didn't commit. People navigating the complex emotions of betrayal, public shame, and uncertainty about the future. That evening, as Rosie works on her science project at the kitchen table, I open my laptop and begin researching support resources for families affected by financial fraud. What I find is surprisingly limited. Plenty of resources for victims who lost money, but very little for the families of perpetrators who are victims in a different way. An idea begins to take shape, small at first, then growing more defined. Perhaps there's a purpose waiting for me in this pain, a way to transform this experience into something meaningful. The call comes on a Tuesday morning, exactly 2 weeks after Todd disappeared. Samantha Reeves from the SEC, her voice carrying an urgency that immediately sets my pulse racing. We've found them, she says, without preamble. Todd and Grace were apprehended trying to cross into Canada near Vancouver. They had fake passports, cash and electronic devices containing evidence of their financial activities. I sink into a chair, legs suddenly weak. They're in custody? Yes. The FBI is handling the arrest due to the interstate nature of the crimes. They'll be brought back to Seattle to face charges. After hanging up, I sit motionless, processing this development. Todd will return to Seattle not as the successful investment director, but as a prisoner facing serious federal charges. His carefully constructed life has collapsed completely, leaving only the truth of who he really is. That evening, after Rosie has gone to bed, I find myself drawn to our home office, a space I've avoided since discovering Todd's betrayal. His presence lingers here, family photos on the desk, his collection of fountain pens, books on investment strategies lining the shelves. I begin methodically removing these traces, placing personal items in boxes for storage, replacing his books. With my architectural references, rearranging the furniture to create a space that feels like mine. With each change, I feel a little lighter, a little more in control of my own environment. As I work, I reflect on the journey of the past 2 weeks. From the moment I discovered Todd's betrayal through the text from Hawaii to this point of partial resolution. The pain hasn't disappeared, but it's transforming into something different, something that feels less like an open wound and more like a scar that will always mark me, but no longer debilitates. The next morning brings another significant development. Aaron calls with news about our financial situation. The judge has approved your petition to unfreeze your personal accounts and the accounts designated for Rosie's education, he explains. Since you've been fully cooperative with the investigation, and there's no evidence you had knowledge of or benefited directly from Todd's illegal activities, you'll be allowed to maintain control of assets that can be proven to come from legitimate sources. What does that mean practically? I ask, desperate for clarity about our future. It means you'll keep your inheritance from your grandmother, your retirement accounts, and the college fund you established for Rosie with your own earnings, he says. The house is more complicated. It was purchased with commingled funds. We'll need to negotiate that aspect. It's not complete financial security, but it's more than I dared hope for. We won't be destitute. Rosie can stay in her school. We have a foundation to build upon. Later that day, I meet Miranda for coffee. After updating her on Todd's arrest, I share the idea that's been taking shape over the past few days. I want to create a support network for families like ours, I explain. People who are dealing with the aftermath of a loved one's financial crimes. There's so little out there specifically addressing our unique situation. Miranda's eyes light up. That's brilliant. I would have given anything for something like that 3 years ago. Would you be interested in helping me get it started? I ask. Absolutely, she says without hesitation. Where do we begin? For the first time in weeks, I feel a genuine spark of excitement about the future. Not the future I had planned or expected, but one with new purpose and meaning emerging from the wreckage of betrayal. 6 months later, I stand at the back of a community center meeting room, watching as 15 women and 3 men introduce themselves to each other, sharing stories of betrayal, shock, and resilience. This is the 3rd meeting of Aftermath, the support group Miranda and I launched for families affected by financial crimes. What began as a small idea has blossomed into something meaningful. We have a website now, a resource guide, and connections, with legal experts willing to provide pro bono consultation. Local media picked up our story last month, bringing new members and expanding our reach. Across the room, Rosie sits with Miranda's son, Zach, both children engaged in an art therapy session designed specifically for kids processing a parent's criminal actions. Watching my daughter's confident brushstrokes, the easy way she explains her artwork to the counselor, I feel a surge of pride and relief. The past 6 months haven't been easy. Todd's case continues to work its way through the federal court system, each hearing bringing fresh media attention and renewed gossip at Rosie's school. We did have to sell the house, a practical necessity and an emotional cleansing, moving instead to a charming bungalow closer to my office, with a garden Rosie has claimed as her special project. I've testified before grand juries, met with prosecutors, endured depositions where Todd's attorneys questioned my knowledge and involvement. Through it all, I've maintained my dignity and my truth, setting an example for Rosie of how to face adversity with grace and integrity. Todd himself remains largely a shadow, glimpsed only at mandatory court appearances where he avoids my gaze. The man I thought I knew for 15 years has faded into something unrecognizable, hollow-cheeked, subdued, diminished by the consequences of his choices. We've spoken only once since his arrest, a carefully supervised conversation requested by his attorney as part of plea deal negotiations. He offered what sounded like a rehearsed apology, words that might have moved me months ago, but now felt inconsequential against the magnitude of his betrayal. "I hope someday you'll understand," he said at the end, to which I simply responded, "I understand perfectly. That's the problem." As the support group begins to break into smaller discussion circles, I feel a tap on my shoulder. It's Julianne, who moved to Seattle 3 months ago to be closer to us. "Sorry I'm late," she whispers. "The traffic was terrible." "You're right on time," I assure her, linking my arm through hers. "We're just getting to the important part." Together, we join one of the circles, where a young mother is describing her shock at discovering her husband's Ponzi scheme. As I listen to her story, different in details but so familiar in essence, I'm struck by how far I've come from that hospital room where I first discovered Todd's betrayal. The pain hasn't disappeared completely. I still have moments of anger, of grief for what might have been, of worry for Rosie's future. But those emotions no longer define me. Instead, I'm defined by the strength I found in crisis, the community I've built from shared suffering, and the purpose that emerged from chaos. This isn't the life I planned. It's better, harder in some ways, but more authentic, more purposeful, more truly mine. As I glance over at Rosie, seeing her laugh at something Zach said, I know with absolute certainty that we didn't just survive Todd's betrayal, we transcended it. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.